Welcome to the Business Challenges podcast, brought to you by the West Country Business Show, where we empower businesses within the Southwest. Hello and welcome to the Challenges podcast. Today on the sofa, we've got Emma and Donna, from Sekoya.
Ooh.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Pleased to be here.
How are you?
Yeah, we're really good. We fought through the rain to get here, but really good.
Yeah, brilliant. It is hammering it down outside, isn't it?
It's like a river coming down the road. It's not a road. I needed a boat.
So today, the whole premise of this is just to find out a bit more about your business and how you, as business people, business owners, and the challenges you face, really. So just tell us initially a little bit about your business, bit about yourselves. You can go one at a time, or you can do this as a double act. It's up to you.
You can start. You can start. No, you go.
Age before beauty. Oh, we're not allowed to say those things anymore.
No, I do think that might be discriminatory.
We are talking everything HR, aren't we?
We are talking everything HR.
And employment law, obviously.
Absolutely. So I'm Donna Morcom, and I am one of the co-directors and owners of Sekoya. We are an HR company, but we also do all the employment law stuff, which is fairly unusual. There are very few businesses that do that. So in Emma's line, I'm going to steal it from you.
Go for it.
We do everything from hire to retire.
I love that.
It's good, isn't it?
That's good, yeah.
Follow
I heard
that
you
one.
say that before, which is surprising.
Have you not?
No.
Have you not heard
No,
that
I've
one
not heard you
before?
say that one before.
Oh, right, okay.
So yes, so that's us. We operate all over the UK. We've got clients all over the UK, travelling up and down the country, dealing with disciplinaries and grievances, and also some exciting stuff too. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, so I'm Emma Roberts, and I'm the other owner and co-director of Sekoya. And I suppose to add to that, I always talk about the employee life cycle. So we do anything around the employee life cycle, which is where the hire to retire bit comes in, and anything in between. So really about helping businesses to have the right structures in places so that they can deliver what they need to in the end.
Okay, brilliant. So we'll move on to some questions. Some of them might be a bit,
tricky.
a bit out there, but we'll work our way through them. So number one, what's your approach to addressing toxic workplace cultures, especially when it stems from senior management?
That's a really complex topic. There are so many different aspects to it and different things that you can look at. I think, first of all, it's about understanding what the issues are. So what are the issues and who is finding it an issue? So it's about going in and doing that investigative piece in the first place.
It's very subjective. What is toxic? Who's finding it toxic? Who's creating the toxic environment? Is it indeed toxic? Or are you just putting into place procedures and ways of doing things that are designed to pull some people into line who don't want to be pulled into line, who then perceive that to be toxic because they've never had to be pulled into line before.
I suppose in quite a lot of aspects, you realise that there is or maybe one bad egg within the company, whether that's senior management or even employee level, that's bringing everything down and causing the issues maybe.
Or miscommunication.
Yeah.
About 90% of the tribunal. So just to explain, Emma deals with or looks after a team that deals with everything in the HR side of things. So, and that's more about the kind of questions that you're raising today. And then when it all goes horribly wrong, that's when I deal with the employment tribunal claims on both the employer side and employee side. So I think it's toxicity is very subjective, and like I say, depending on who you're talking to will depend on whether or not it's really toxic or whether or not we've just had to pull you back into line and you don't like it.
Okay.
And it can be a number of individuals. And like I say, about 90% of all of the tribunal claims that I deal with are about a lack of communication. When you really drill down, it's about communication skills.
And I think if you look at some statistics, most people leave their employment because of poor management. So when people say, is it stemming from management? For most employees, yes, it probably is. The reason for that is normally poor communication. So it's about making sure that you get those communication channels right, and actually you invest in training your managers, because very often they're promoted on technical ability rather than their ability to be a manager.
Okay. Very interesting. So what's the response to people who claim business owners are inherently exploitative?
It's another complex one, Ryan, if I'm going to be really honest. And again,
I'm just happy that complex came out of my mouth.
I'm impressed, I have to say, because I'm glad I didn't have to say it.
Flowed,
That's the sixth take, by the way.
Fantastic. So I think, again, it's about what people want out of business. Most business owners are not in it for any other reason than normally because they want to do a service that they enjoy doing. That's why they've become their own business owner. So there's a passion to drive it. But none of us do it in the same way as none of employees only go to work for money. So actually, there's always going to be a drive to make money from anybody, whether that's an employee or the owner of the business. And if we're focused on cost and finances, then people that are working in that organisation may see that in the context that you've described. So again, I think it comes back to communication. And if you're communicating effectively with your employees while you're doing what you're doing, then that approach of them thinking that will never occur in the first place.
Okay. And having an open door policy means that anybody who feels that way and feels able to express that openly so that you as the business owner can explain why you're making the decisions that you're making, that's really important. That allows that culture of people being able to express themselves and not harbouring those comments and you know the kind of backstabbing behind closed doors. None of that happens, because if people feel able to turn around and say, well, actually, you are making me work 26 hours a day when there's only 24 hours in a day, and I feel really aggrieved by that, then actually you can do something about it. The problem occurs when people don't raise it, and then you end up with a more deep-rooted problem where people don't feel like they can raise their problems. And that's where people would rather leave than tell you that there's a problem and allow you to sort it out, but then raise their claim afterwards.
Okay.
Because again, what they're thinking is, if I raise that, that's going to affect my career. I'm not going to get the opportunities. They're not going to think good of me. So that's what, and it's a very British thing as well. It's probably different in other countries, but here we're very much where we don't talk about those sorts of things. So as a business owner, you need to encourage that to happen.
Stiff upper lip.
Yeah.
Don't complain.
Don't complain.
Don't be rude.
Don't explain and don't complain.
No, exactly.
Just move on.
Exactly. Should CEOs or business owners be paid significantly more than their employees?
Well, that's an interesting question.
I thought it was an interesting one.
Yes.
I was actually looking forward to your response on this from an HR standpoint, obviously.
So, as somebody who's actually very rarely, given that until a year ago, I was the sole business owner, I was the lowest paid person at various points in the business, and I have never been the highest paid person in my own business.
I think you find that across the board, especially with the small businesses, startups, even companies that, I know that there's obviously myself, Paul and Matt that own our company, but all the employees, and at one point we were up to sort of nearly 20 employees. They were all paid more than us. Yeah. And it just happens across the board until you establish into a larger organisation.
And I think there is a perception that we're all, doing very well, and and that actually, it feels bad that they're the people that are always the one who have to go out and and do all of the hours. But actually, when you really work it out and you work out how many hours a business owner does compared to the amount they get paid, I think we'd probably all be better off working in a supermarket.
Don't take it away. Stacking shelves isn't a bad shout.
I think, again, there's two answers to this. And one is if you're in a small business. So SMEs, which is what we're predominantly talking about at the moment, I absolutely agree. And most business owners take that back seat while they're driving their business and growing it. If you're in a large corporate organisation, I'd say it's the other way round. Yeah. And I would say that your CEO would expect to get paid more, because actually they're taking the accountability for what's going on in that business, and they have to bring a certain skill set, because otherwise they won't be in their job for very long.
No, definitely. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Now, if you had to start this whole journey over, what's the one trend or market that you'd ignore despite its potential profitability?
Oh, you've been in it longer than me, Donna, so.
This is over to you.
That is,
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like that. That was a complete shift. There you go.
slopey shoulder. So what industry would I ignore?
So I'll read it again. So if you had to start over on this whole journey again, what's the one trend or market that you'd ignore despite the potential profitability? Tough one to answer.
It is a tough one to answer.
I've got a bit of a thought. And if I think about the way that you talk about the way the business started up. So when you originally started it up, after being in a law firm, you very much wanted to provide that legal advice, didn't you, to lots of businesses? And that's the approach that you took in the first instance. And then quite quickly, you realised that the wider HR piece was actually what those businesses needed. And it was preventing them getting to needing the law in the first place. Would that be fair?
That's a very good answer.
Okay.
And that's absolutely true. As time has gone on, I actually almost put myself out of a job hiring Emma and giving Emma the ability to go and hire a team because actually I'm not required anymore. And what's really interesting is how many cases I'm dealing with against another, where I'm acting for the employee, for example, against a company. And you realise that we're going to get to a hearing because they're getting really poor advice. Yeah. And actually what they could have spent on some really good HR in the first place would have saved them tens of thousands of pounds getting to a hearing. What people forget is that an average, and I can give you statistics from our own business, an average basic employment tribunal claim is 3 to 5 days of a hearing. Okay. In order to get to the hearing, so that's not the costs of attending the hearing, having all your staff attend the hearing, having to take time out of work, the chargeable work you would have done had you not been there, or producing something or growing your business, just the legal fees alone is 25,000. And we're talking upwards of 25,000. It will be no less than 25,000.
And if we go back to sort of, SME businesses and the fact that CEOs and stuff don't pay themselves as much because they're correct. They don't really have that money. And
that's the difficulty sometimes. Yeah. We are a crisis purchase. So people will come to us when they've already had that land on their desk. And by then it's too late. Yeah. Because by then they only have two choices as an employer: to settle it or to fight it, both of which are going to cost them money. And when you maybe only have been taking a very small amount out of the business in order to be able to reinvest in growth, but also to reinvest in your staff. Yeah. Only yesterday, we took a member of our own staff to Exeter and spent the entire day, buying lots of clothes for her and taking her out for lunch and really making her feel special, because she's been doing an absolutely astounding job. The
well-being that comes
exactly.
with the job satisfaction, from you guys as well for that. That's brilliant.
Absolutely. And she absolutely loved it. And we've ploughed that money back into the business again to be able to do things like that, not having a pay rise for a number of years. And then if you then think, okay, there's a tribunal claim that's come through and all that money I've saved, not taking that as a salary, I'm now going to have to spend on something that was really easy to avoid in the first place. Just by going through a proper procedure, getting some really good mediation in sometimes. It's not always about, going through a process. Sometimes it's just about knocking people's heads together. Yeah. And it's about having that conversation. And I think if I had my chance again, I would have got HR in much, much quicker. And I probably wouldn't have gone so far down the legal route with many of the things that I did.
Okay. And this leads on quite nicely from that. Have you ever lost a close friend? Okay.
I thought you were going to say, have you ever lost a case? Because I haven't.
I know.
I've got that.
No, I know you haven't. That's why I'm not asking you that question. I don't want you to give you that opportunity.
No, I've never lost a case, Ryan, in 20 years.
Well, the question is,
yes.
Have you ever lost a close friendship or relationship because of poor business decision?
What, their poor business decision or mine?
Yours.
Oh, a poor decision on my part. I don't know if I've ever had any poor decisions.
it's not a poor decision on my part, but I have got an example where there was a particular business I was supporting, and one of the individuals in there I was actually very friendly with. We were really good friends, and we'd do stuff out and about and differently, and very heavily involved in them. And there was a massive change in their organisation. And unfortunately, that individual no longer fit the journey of that organisation. So as our business, it was our responsibility to exit them from the business.
Yes.
And that individual's not spoken to me since. And that's quite sad.
Yes.
It's really sad, because having that separation between that personal and that business can be quite difficult from time to time.
And we find that actually with a lot of small businesses, in that you're not just their employer, you're their friend.
Yes.
And you are there every day listening to the highs and the lows of everything that individual goes through, supporting them through things. And the difficulty for me is that any mistakes I probably have been made with members of staff, which I can't really talk about. But luckily, they've all been, okay come the end. But everyone makes mistakes. We're all humans.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think for us, the difficulty is that many of the claims that we're dealing with at the moment, or the situations that we're dealing with, have come about because the owner of the business is very good friends with the person whom they're employing. And that's a really tough situation, and usually a spouse randomly. So, they start off with we love each other. We do. We're getting married. We're going to have babies. Everything's going to be fine, isn't it? We love each other. We've spent £20,000 on this amazing wedding. It's going to be amazing. And then, 3 years down the line, we're spending £50,000 in legal fees fighting over the towels we never wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's the problem, is that then it gets personal.
We also, going to work, boss, employee, whatever it might be, you spend more time. You're talking about friendships and stuff like that. That employee would spend he or she will spend more time at the office than with their husband or wife.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, like you said about the exit there, all of a sudden that finishes.
Absolutely.
And then you're thrown back into maybe unemployment or anything like that, and it's difficult for someone to take.
Very
definitely.
hard.
Yeah. But actually, on that point, one situation that I think always happens with a business owner in terms of making mistakes is often asking people to do external jobs for you, like, I don't know, marketing, buying, pens and stuff with your logos on, or I don't know, even, running podcasts, or it could be anything. But getting somebody in to do that, and then having to have the discussion where it's not quite what you wanted, and the product turns up and you're like, that's not what I mean, luckily, touch wood, that's never actually happened to me. But when I first started, I had somebody who did our social media for us, who, he's no longer in business anymore, but he did our social media for us, and who's remained a really good friend of mine. But we did have a fallout over it, where I realised I was paying him for a service that we weren't getting. And that's always a difficulty, because when you trust people, and then I, as far as I'm concerned, I've sent that out into the ether for them to deal with. And then it was only months and months later that I checked and realised that I wasn't getting the service that I had been paying for. And then that's a really difficult conversation. And then there's the argument over what was agreed. And of course, back then I was a bit wet behind the ears. I wouldn't have got that written down. I just agreed that we would do it a few times a week. It turns out that wasn't what I got. So we did fall out for a period of time, but like all good professionals, you make up.
It happens. It happens at the end of the day.
You roll with it.
Do you think company loyalty is a realistic expectation in today's workforce?
It should be. It isn't always.
No. Okay.
And I think many years ago, and Emma's going to have a much better view on this than I will, because we come at it from different angles. My angle is very skewed because, of course, I'm litigating all the time. So, back in the days when I used to do personal injury claims, I couldn't drive down a country road without thinking I was going to have a head-on collision with someone, because I dealt with so many. So my view is skewed, but I genuinely believe that the loyalty that you once had as an employee towards your employer is nowhere near the same as it was. But to some extent, we are the bringer of our own misfortune in that we have created laws that say you can't thank somebody for their loyalty if they've been with you for more than 5 years. The maximum you can thank somebody for their loyalty is up to the maximum of 5 years because because young people move jobs so often. Yeah. So those days of getting your carriage clock when you are, some people watching this won't even know what a carriage clock is.
Watch, go with watch.
Watch. You'd get your watch, gold watch. Yeah. You know, it's a bit like your iPhone, but you know, it was attached to the wall. You know, back in the days.
That's mad, wasn't it?
I know, right? That was when Emma was around, when she was young.
All right, okay.
I don't remember those days clearly, but so those days are gone. You can't do that anymore. You can't have, you know, the days of, you know, when someone would naturally retire and you'd have a big party. You can't do that anymore because default retirement has gone.
Yeah.
I think I'd add to that, this is the first time ever we've got 5 different generations in the workforce. So we've got right the way through, there's still some silent generation people, which were like First, Second World War type people that are still working. We've got through baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and we've now got Generation Z in the workforce.
And soon to be Alpha.
And they've all, as groups of people, got different approaches to work and what is their motivators and what's their drivers. So as a baby boomer, it was all very much about, I want the money, I want to be able to have my independence, I want to be able to buy my own home, all of that kind of thing. Yeah. Young people today, that is actually an unobtainable goal for most of them. Yeah. So what they want is the nice Gucci phone and the nice Gucci computer and the ability to work flexibly. And I think that what we've actually got is people managing people that they don't really understand in terms of their motivators. So I think that loyalty may be there, but in a different way. And I just don't think we always understand it. And I think that as an employer, you've got to get your head around the fact that not everybody's going to be the same as you. And it's up to you as an employer and a manager to adapt your style to all the different types of people that you're managing. And I could talk about that for hours. Yeah.
Well, we haven't got hours, but we have got about 2 minutes left on the clock. But the last little bit that I want to ask is for the viewers, people that are watching this, what's your best tip, business advice?
Go on, you go first.
The most valuable asset in your business is your people, as far as I'm concerned. And they're your most costly asset as well. So treat them well, understand what you're doing with them and make sure you're doing the right things. And they will be your business. They will go out there and they will sell your business. They will have it running through their veins and they will make your business a success.
Okay.
For me, I think my biggest tip is actually non-Sekoya related.
Okay.
And that is to celebrate the wins and roll with the punches when it's low.
Okay.
Because I think as business owners, we don't celebrate the wins enough. We breathe a sigh of relief when we win, but we never really celebrate the wins like we should. And, you know, and given the current climate with, you know, and I don't want to bring it down and date it, but, you know, given where we are in the economy right now, and we are about to go through the biggest change on the employment law horizon that we've ever had, we've got some really tough times to come. So it's really important to celebrate not only your own wins, but the wins of your team. Yeah. And to when you win together, you win as a team, as opposed to just the person who got it over the line.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies. This is now asking us if we're still watching, so this is obviously a cue to finish.
Get out of here.
Are you still watching at home? So thank you, ladies, for coming down today. I've been Ryan, and this has been the Challenges Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.